Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 21st RiverRun International Film Festival. I'm Rob Davis, Festival Director, and I'm delighted to welcome you to a very special evening. The title sponsors of our 21st RiverRun International Film Festival are the Arts Council, School of the Arts, and Reynolds American, and we're very grateful to them. And the sponsor of this evening's special program is the Hotel Indigo. So a special thank you to all of the sponsors for making RiverRun possible. Over the course of our 21 years, we have not presented the Master of Cinema Award every year. We have for the last 3 years. And tonight we have the great honor and privilege to present it to two remarkable individuals who have carved out careers on film, which we recognize, but also on television and stage, including the Broadway stage. And I'm speaking of Paula Prentiss and Richard Benjamin. And we're delighted to have them with us. We're delighted to honor them, and it's also historic because this is the first time we've been able to give a Master of Cinema Award to a married couple. So we're thrilled to be able to be here tonight and to do that. And Paula and Richard will be up on stage in just a moment, but before they come up, we've assembled a little montage that looks at both of their careers. So I hope you enjoy our work.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you. We're very happy to be here. Such a beautiful, beautiful place. And the weather, my goodness, I guess that's every day.
Seeing all of that, I mean, having your life pass by in front of you, I thought we were just taking a nap. Thank you for putting that together. That beautifully done. And there's stuff I haven't quite forgot about it, but there's stuff that I thought could never be found. The Dr. Kildare, that was Rip Torn. And it was the first thing I ever got. And I told my folks, my mom and dad, don't tell anybody because I'm only in before the titles. That was before the titles. Please don't tell anyone. Well, of course, they told everyone in America. And then afterwards, because the people tuned in after the titles, gee, Ruth, I didn't see Richard. No, because he was before the titles. I told you not to tell them. And seeing some of those other things in there, it's beautifully put together. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, one thing that I'd like to start with, I know you both met when you were acting students at Northwestern University. And then, Paula, you were discovered by an MGM talent scout while you were a student in a student production, and you started your, I guess, post-college career in film. Richard, you did more stage work, I think, early on. But tell us how you ended up getting married, because that's such an interesting story.
So we were, I guess, what you call living together. And I was working on a show in Toronto called The Gay Life. And I was the director's assistant. And the director got fired. And I didn't know if I was fired too. And I went to the producer, Kermit Bloomgarden, and I said, am I fired? So he said, who are you? And I said, I'm the director's assistant. And he said, well, we fired the director. So I said, I guess you're fired too. And then Paula was on her way to go to London to publicize Bachelor in Paradise. You saw a clip of it with Bob Hope. And she came through Toronto just to see me briefly on our way to London. And I went to the airport, and the minute I saw it, I said, I just got fired. And so we came back to the hotel, and Julie Munchin, who had worked at MGM, was in the cast of this show. And I said, Paula's on her way to London, and he said, why don't you go with her? And I said, well, how do we do that? He said, tell Paula to call them up. She's under contract there. So she called the West Coast, and they said, well, London is handling this. You have to call the head of the London MGM. So she called him, and he said, well, are you married? So she said, no. And he said, well, this is MGM. Now, this is 1961. We can't have you get off an airplane and go to the Dorchester Hotel in London with your boyfriend. We'll be glad to send him with you if you get married. So my dad knew people who knew people. There was a 3-day blood test thing in New York. He somehow got that waived, and we got married in a day and a half. And the next thing we knew, we were in London. And so I got this, 58-year marriage out of that. But a fabulous... But also I got a great trip. And then... And that's kind of the way that happened. I mean, and here we are.
Here we are. Now, so Paula, when you left Northwestern and went to Hollywood, you worked with some pretty huge names early on. So would you share a couple of memories of working with perhaps Bob Hope and Peter Sellers? And
yes, I had really fun co-stars. I worked with Steve McQueen, and I worked with Rock Hudson and John Wayne, and one of the best times I had was in the Stepford Wives, the original one, and that was Catherine Ross. We had a really good time, and it was a lot of fun to meet all these people. And I didn't really have much notion of the movie. Howard Hawks wanted to use me in his movie. I wasn't sure who he was, but Dick knew who he was. And then it came to be that we used almost the same dialogue that Hawks had given to Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, certainly about kissing. And it went like this. Rock kisses me, a long, kind of a nice kiss, and then I pull away and I say, oh, that wasn't so good. And that was from other films that he had done. And Hawks allowed us to do that, to kind of go one over the other person. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I've had wonderful people to work with. Peter Sellers, Peter O'Toole. Yep. Thank you.
Now, in terms of the Stepford Wives, do you have a favorite scene from that film in particular? Because you had so many good moments in there.
Oh, thanks. Well, the one I really loved, turned out to love, was when I am a robot at the time, and when Catherine Ross comes in, and I think she stabs me in the stomach. And that's what was up here, wasn't it? Yeah. And so I take this out, and then I offered to get her a cup of coffee. I can't really get her a cup of coffee. So I attempt in my robotic way to go to the cabinet and get her a cup of coffee, which I drop. And then I ask her again, would you like a cup of coffee? And I did the same thing several times. That was a really fun scene, and I loved when I saw it. I thought that was a scream. Yeah.
So that's because the knife had short-circuited you, right?
Yes.
And you couldn't get beyond the cup of coffee.
Short-circuited me in my new state. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was fun.
Very good. Well, now I want to mention briefly the TV show you did, because we had a clip of that, and it ran for one season, I believe, on CBS. And I've recently looked at a couple of episodes of that, and to me now, it seems to be so ahead of its time. It almost looks like it blazed the trail for Newhart and Mary Tyler Moore and so many others. How did that show come about and get on the air?
Well, Yeah, Paula saying we were the first ones to be in a double bed together. And CBS said, "Oh, we don't know." I said, "Well, they really are married, you know." So, oh, okay, I guess that's all right. They do it in real life, so okay. CBS wanted to do a show with Paula, and they sent her to Leonard Stern, who had done Get Smart. And she said, well, I would like to do this, but I will only do it with my husband. And Leonard's wife had seen me in Barefoot in the Park in Chicago with Myrna Loy, and before any of this happened, and she said to Leonard, there's a guy in this play you would really like, he's your kind of actor. Anyway, so we met with Leonard, we read the script, and we thought it was, you know, just great. And we said, okay, great. So the next thing we know, we're getting ready to make the pilot. And the day before we start the pilot, CBS calls Leonard. Leonard says, I just got a call from CBS. And I said, yeah, what? And he said, well, you've made the deal, right? He said, yes, we made the deal. We start shooting tomorrow. And he said, that guy who is her husband, is he an actor? So she said, we hope so. We start tomorrow. And so they had no idea. And but you know, at first I didn't want to do any television. In those days, it was very difficult. People either were on TV or they were in the movies, and they didn't quite cross over. They started to, but they didn't quite cross over, and I didn't know about that. But once we started doing it, I never wanted it to end. We had such a great time because they were like little plays. We did them in front of an audience, and we had a wonderful time.
Okay. Well, now, we know, Paula, that you were discovered at Northwestern and put under a 7-year contract at MGM. So now, Richard, how did your film acting career start? How did you get Goodbye Columbus?
So we've done the TV show, and it's going along, and here's the thing. We followed Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. Beverly Hillbillies is like the #1 show. The #2 show is Green Acres, and we follow them. So our ratings never quite got up. Today, if we had the ratings we had now, we'd be on the air forever, but that was CBS. They were known as the Tiffany Network and everything. They had the top-rated shows. So our show fell off from those first 2 shows in ratings, and when we first went on the air on Wednesday night, we watched a little bit of Green Acres before us, and Green Acres always ended with a little pig dancing. And I said to Paula, something tells me that those people who love that little pig dancing are not going to be as crazy about us as they are about that little pig. And it was true, because we were an urban kind of show, and later shows that were kind of started to happen. But Tiffany's, the CBS was so strong in that time that if you even fell off a little bit, they wouldn't keep you on. So anyway, we're driving across the country, going home back to New York, and Paula has read the book, Goodbye Columbus, and she said, you know, you should read this book because it's kind of like you, and you should read it. I said, I don't want to read any damn books. I'm too busy. I'm too busy doing nothing. And I don't want to read any books. So we get to New York, and my agent calls and says, they're auditioning for the lead character. They're making a movie of Goodbye Columbus. So I say to Paula, where's that damn book? And so I met with them, and with Larry Pierce and Stanley Chaffee, and I just said to myself, I'm not leaving this office until they cast me. And they did. And you know, it's funny because, as I say, if our show had lasted, I don't know if I would have gotten that. First of all, I don't think there would have been time. And second of all, there was that kind of crossover thing. So again, there's luck involved in all of this.
Well, now, of course, you've acted, but then what prompted you to decide you would like to pursue a directing career?
Well, I always wanted to direct. I mean, there's a joke in Hollywood that people have T-shirts that say, but what I really want to do is direct. And I always did, and I did in school, and I directed Paula in school, and community theater, and all kinds of stuff. But, you know, how do you do that? It's one thing to walk in and read for a part in a play or something, and, you know, you're there with your piece of paper, and maybe you get cast, maybe you don't, but who's going to give you a multi-million-dollar production with a cast and crew of about 100 people? Who's going to let you do that? So we had an agent, Phil Gersh, who was also a director's agent. He said, let me work on this. And we went to New York, Paul and I, to do this instructional video about how, for Time Life, how people should behave and give good meetings. And Paula was the one who knew how to give good meetings, and I was the dope who didn't know how to give good meetings. And we did this instructional video. While we were there, David Gersh's son sends me this script and says, they want to meet with you. I had done a pilot for, there was a movie, Where's Papa? And I did a pilot for the TV show of Where's Papa. So I had some film that I had actually done, and it starred Elsa Lanchester in the Ruth Gordon part. And it was pretty good, and it was really funny. And it was for ABC, and they saw the pilot, and they said, is this woman crazy in the thing? And why? Well, because her son is trying to kill her right at the beginning of the thing. And because ABC, we're ABC, we can't have any crazy mothers on here. And Marvin Worth told, no, she's just eccentric. And they said, we can't have this. So anyway, they didn't put that on, but I had the film. So Mel Brooks and Mike Grossoff saw that, and then I met with them, and we hit it off, and they asked me to do it. So again, it's like, and then, so I get this job, and I'm thrilled to get this job. And Paula even suggests Peter O'Toole, because she has worked with him, What's New Pussycat, and we're ready to go. And the same thing happened that happened on the other thing. David Beagleman was the head of MGM, and before we started shooting, Mel Brooks came to me and he said, I got a call from Beagleman, and he said, now tell me again, why are we letting Benjamin direct this picture? And Mel said to him, we think he's sane. So Mel came to me and he said, you're an actor, you have to act sane. That's why they're letting you do this. So again, you can't plan how any of this happens. So, I was so fortunate. In the first picture I acted in was Goodbye Columbus, and the first picture I direct was Favorite Year, so, there's luck.
Well, now, Paula, we were talking earlier today because you've done work on television, on film, and on stage, but you mentioned you really enjoy stage work. Would you say a few words about that, about the differences in film and stage work?
I like stage work because it solidifies what you've really got to do. And in the movies, if you take a line at a time, as you do sometime, or a paragraph, it's more than, it's not quite winging it, and it's not quite spontaneity, it's something else. But in the play, you get to actually learn moment by moment what is going on, so that you progress within that moment's time, that now, to the end of the play, and it can be a surprise. So that's what's wonderful about plays. You get to go through the whole, to be the character through different situations, and depending upon the play, of course, if it's a fine play, then you really, really register something inside about acting. Television, I did one night for Saturday Night Live. I think Carter's Sister, something like that. I was, okay, and you're on. They didn't even tell me any more than that. So I went and did that. That was a live kind of situation, and it's like, wow, shot out of a cannon is what it is. And then In the movies, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. It's definitely talking, as you and I would talk. But on the stage, it's something, again, where are we going at the end of this play? I'm not even going to see you, right? Something like that. And then television, the television we had in front of our audience was a very good training ground, because we could certainly tell by the laughs or not if things were working. So that's the difference between them, yeah. Uh-huh.
Now, Richard, in your directing, you've directed for film and stage. Do you have a preference in directing, live versus film?
Well, theater is the actor's medium, and I think film is the director's, because you're got this, you know, thing in your head, and everything there is to kind of serve that. And I like being the first person there and the last person, you know, to turn off the lights and stuff. I mean, it's also a person, you know, like me, likes to be in control of everything. And you get to do that, and you get to, you have knowledge that you don't even have. Someone comes to you and says, should you wear the green dress or the red dress? And you can't really hesitate. Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, you know. I don't know, what do you think? Oh, the red, it's clearly the red. And ladies, is it? I don't know. But you have to make decisions, you have to make them fast, because time is money and all of that. Anyway, there's something really, really enjoyable for, you know, a person like me. I remember when I was doing the Sunshine Boys with Walter, and in house calls with Walter. Walter even said to me, he said, this isn't enough for you, is it? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, I just think there's more for you here. This isn't quite enough for you. Walter became a good friend.
Excellent. Well, before we talk just a little bit about the Sunshine Boys, tell us a little bit about your family now. Did any of them follow in your footsteps into entertainment?
Well, yes.
Yes, Ross, our son, has got a Geico commercial running right now. So we love that. He's in the theater and producing and then doing film and stuff. And his wife is a trauma surgeon at USC, and she's a pretty remarkable woman, and they have fabulous, our granddaughter Isabella, and then our daughter is in Colorado Springs with her husband, who teaches theater at the University of Colorado, so everyone's somehow involved in this. And our daughter teaches dance and acts there in Colorado Springs, and we have two grandsons, 5 and 2, so we feel pretty blessed, actually.
And the two of you still work. Paula, you were in a film at the Toronto Film Festival just a few years ago.
I think so. Was that the one that Osgood Perkins directed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I am the pretty thing that lives in the house. I wasn't the pretty thing, but I saw her. I knew she was in there.
And then the two of you have appeared recently on stage in Love Letters, I believe, right?
Love Letters and the Adams, John Adams.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, we did read the John Adams letters, which are in Abigail, just incredible. Yeah, so we've that was fairly recently, but it's been, you know, and seeing this montage, you think, well, you know, I guess we were busy, weren't we?
Most definitely. Now, let's talk. We're going to see the Sunshine Boys in just a few minutes. And you had a long history with Neil Simon's plays before you took on this part. Who approached you about doing it? Was it Herb Ross or
It was
Neil
Herb.
Simon?
It was Herb who approached me, and he called me and they said that we want you to do this, but we don't have any money. But what we could do is we could. Do you need a new roof on your house? I thought, what? And he said, well, we could bury it in the construction budget. So I called my agent, And I said, well, they're not paying very much. He said, I know, but maybe we could get a roof out of this. But the agent wanted his commission in lumber or something. So, but the truth of that was all true, but the thing is, I didn't care because I so wanted to do it. I so wanted to do it. And working with Walter and George Burns was like a dream come true, because George, my uncle was in vaudeville, and I saw him when I was 5 years old at the Palace Theater in New York, and I didn't quite know what any of this was. I thought my uncle stood up there and said some things, and all these people out there laughed. I thought they were his friends. I couldn't make head or... Anyway, so we get to do this, and I'm with George and, you know, Walter every day, and we love Burns and Allen on the radio and TV, and my folks and my dad all, you know, just love them. And now here I am working with him, and I said to George one day, my uncle was in vaudeville. So he said, yeah, what was his name? And I said, Joe Browning. Oh, he said, yeah. I said, did you know him? He said, not only did I know him, I know his act. You want to hear it? And he did what I heard when I was 5 years old. The other thing with George was, he asked me to go to lunch with him every day at MGM. And he said, and you know, it's George Burns, he said, hey kid, you want to have lunch with me? And I said, yeah, sure, Mr. Burns. This was every single day. Now, he asked me like he never asked me the day before. Hey kid, you want to have lunch with me? Sure. Now we're walking along between these giant sound stages at MGM, and this is a joke he tells me. He said, you know, Gracie and I were here 35 years ago. You know that? We made a movie here 35 years ago. I said, yes, I know, Mr. Burns. And he said, well, they liked me so much, they asked me back. That was his joke. He told it to me every single day. Like it was like Groundhog Day. There was no difference from the day before. Like he never had told me that joke before. Same joke. And to me, I laughed every single day. But that was, you know, a really special experience, yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear, because it's such a fun movie to watch, and it sounds like it was just as fun on the set.
Yeah, it was.
Well, before we watch the movie, we have one last piece of business. As I said, we don't present the Master of Cinema Award every year, but we are delighted to present it tonight. And for anyone who has not been with us when we've presented it before, the award itself is a piece of glass, and it's made possible by our good friends Lynn and Barry Eisenberg, and it's handcrafted at the Oleo Studio here in Winston-Salem. Many of you probably know RiverRun actually began in Brevard, North Carolina, near Asheville, and we were there for the first 3 years. And the river that runs through that part of the state is the French Broad River, and that's how RiverRun got its name. For many years in the beginning, all of our advertising, even after we moved to Winston-Salem, centered around river-themed advertising, and especially inner tubes, which sometimes you still see around town. I saw one in a window on Trade Street just yesterday. And so with the Master of Cinema Award, we pay tribute to our legacy as well, and the piece of glass is designed as an inner tube, harking back to our beginnings. So Karen, if you'll come and help me present these, and it's such a great honor and privilege to present these awards to Richard Benjamin and Paula Prentiss.
Blue glass.
Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
We really feel quite honored. You know, this is so lovely, and to say Master of Cinema, I want to tell my kids that's what we are. Yeah. When they complain about anything, we're Masters of Cinema. This is so, we really feel deeply honored. We
Yes.
really do. And
thank you very
we
much.
are so pleased that you would select us for this. And also, we could tell from when Rob first called and we saw the brochures that this was a first-class, lovely operation, and that's what we felt here the whole time we were here. This is a beautifully run festival, and it's done with great warmth and affection and professionalism, and we're quite honored. Thank you so
Really
much.
enjoyed ourselves.